My friends, most of us think that winning means proving our point. We argue to be right, not to be wise. We want the last word, even if it costs us our peace. But life has its own way of teaching us that not every battle is fought with words, some are won with silence. There was a time when I used to reply instantly to every opinion, every criticism, every judgment, until one day I realized something powerful. The more I talked, the less I learned, the quieter I became, the more I understood. And that day I stopped talking to be heard and started listening to grow. Because when you stop talking, not out of ego, but out of awareness, you start hearing the truth that words often hide. And in that silence, you find wisdom, peace, and strength. Silence is power, not weakness. You see, in a world where everyone wants to be heard, the one who chooses to stay silent often becomes the one who is truly understood. People think silence means defeat, that if you don't respond, you've lost the argument. But the truth is, silence doesn't mean you've lost. It means you've risen above the need to prove yourself. There's a certain elegance in restraint, a kind of unseen strength in holding your tongue when your mind is on fire. The ability to stay calm when everything around you is screaming for a reaction, that's real power. Anyone can raise their voice, it takes nothing to shout. But to stay quiet when you could easily explode, that requires maturity, awareness, and emotional intelligence. Have you ever noticed the most powerful people, the ones who truly influence others, they don't talk much. They choose their words like gold, because they know that words, once spoken, can't be taken back. Silence gives them time to think, to understand, and to respond from wisdom rather than impulse. I remember a moment in my own life when someone said something very hurtful to me. Every cell in my body wanted to reply, to defend myself, to explain my truth. But something inside whispered, "Wait." So I stayed silent. Days later, that same person came back and said, "I expected you to react, but you didn't." And that made me realize how wrong I was. In that moment, I understood silence had spoken for me. Because when you remain silent, you give the other person space to hear their own noise. You allow their conscience to echo louder than your voice ever could. Silence can humble, heal, and teach in ways that words never can. Silence doesn't mean surrender. It means you're secure enough not to need validation. It means you trust your truth so deeply that you don't need to announce it to anyone. It's not about ignoring others, it's about preserving your peace. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, pause. Let silence be your strength. Let peace be your reply. Because power is not in speaking the loudest, it's in staying calm enough to hear everything, yet wise enough to say nothing. When you master that, you don't just win arguments, you win yourself. Every word you speak carries energy. Every sentence you form costs a part of your peace. Most people don't realize this, but talking endlessly, arguing pointlessly, and explaining constantly is like leaking your life force, drop by drop. You don't see it immediately, but over time, it drains your inner calm, your focus, and your joy. Think about it. How often do we exhaust ourselves trying to make someone understand our perspective? We repeat, we justify, we defend. And yet, at the end of it, we feel more empty than relieved. Because the truth is, energy flows where attention goes. And when we spend our attention on noise, we have nothing left for what truly matters: growth, peace, purpose. There was a time when I felt I had to answer every question, respond to every comment, and explain every action. It felt necessary, as if silence would make me appear weak or wrong. But the more I spoke, the more I realized I wasn't winning anything. I was just getting tired. My peace was slowly being traded for the illusion of being understood. That's when I discovered something powerful. And not every truth needs to be spoken, and not every misunderstanding needs to be cleared. Words are like currency, spend them wisely. When you waste your words on people who don't listen, on arguments that go nowhere, you bankrupt your spirit. Every unnecessary conversation chips away at your clarity. But when you stay silent, when you choose your words with awareness, your energy starts to build like water stored behind a dam. It becomes powerful, purposeful, focused. Notice how peaceful you feel after a moment of stillness. When you stop explaining, stop defending, stop reacting. That's your energy returning home. That's the sound of your soul recharging. You don't lose energy because life is hard. You lose it because you keep giving it away through endless words that serve no purpose. Silence, on the other hand, preserves your strength. It keeps your emotional battery charged. It gives you space to listen, to reflect, and to understand what truly deserves your voice. Because when you speak less, your words start to mean more. They carry weight, depth, and impact. So before you speak, ask yourself, is it worth my energy? Will these words bring peace or just more noise? If the answer is no, then choose silence. Because silence doesn't just protect your energy, it multiplies it. And that energy, when guarded and focused, becomes your power to rise, to create, and to win without ever having to shout. You learn more when you listen. It sounds simple, almost too simple. Yet it's one of the greatest truths of life. Most people don't really listen. They just wait for their turn to speak. They hear the words, but not the meaning. They listen to reply, not to understand. And because of that, they miss the lessons hidden between the pauses, the wisdom carried in silence, and the beauty of truly connecting with another human being. When you talk, you're only repeating what you already know. But when you listen, you open the door to everything you don't. Listening is how you grow beyond yourself. It's how you expand your awareness, your empathy, your understanding of the world. In a conversation, it's not the loudest voice that wins. It's the one that listens deeply enough to see the truth beneath the noise. There was a time when I thought confidence meant speaking a lot, sharing my thoughts, my opinions, my advice. I wanted to contribute, to add value. But then I met people who spoke less and listened more, and their presence alone carried more power than 1,000 words. When they finally did speak, every sentence felt like a drop of gold. I realized that listening isn't passive. It's one of the most active forms of intelligence. Listening requires humility. It means accepting that maybe, just maybe, you don't know everything. That there's something to learn, even from those you disagree with. True listening is not just hearing sounds. It's reading emotions, sensing intentions, and feeling the energy behind the words. It's the willingness to step out of your own story and step into someone else's world for a moment. When you listen, people open up, they feel seen, heard, and valued, and that's one of the deepest needs of the human heart. Listening heals relationships faster than explanations ever can. Sometimes people don't need your advice, they just need your attention. And in that quiet space of listening, miracles happen. Arguments dissolve, hearts soften, and understanding grows. There's a deep stillness in listening. You start to hear not just others, but yourself. In the silence of listening, you become aware of your own thoughts, your own reactions. You begin to see patterns, how your mind rushes to judge, how your ego wants to interrupt, And in that awareness, you grow. Listening becomes meditation. It becomes a practice of mindfulness in motion. So try this next time you're in a conversation. Slow down. Don't rush to speak. Observe, feel, listen with your eyes, your heart, and your soul. You'll notice things you never did before. The tone, the pauses, the emotions that words try to hide. That's where true understanding lives. Because life is always speaking to us, through people, through moments, through silence. But we can't hear it if we're always talking. When you learn to listen, you don't just understand others. You begin to understand life itself. And that understanding is the foundation of all wisdom. Reactions reveal, silence conceals. The moment you react, you hand over your power. You let someone else dictate your emotional state. You become a puppet pulled by the strings of your own impulses. But the moment you pause, the moment you breathe before responding, you reclaim your strength. Because in that stillness lies your choice to rise above or to fall into the same chaos you're observing. You see, every reaction is a mirror. It doesn't show who the other person is, it shows who you are in that moment. When someone criticizes you, mocks you, or provokes you, your reaction becomes a reflection of your maturity. If you respond with anger, it means they've touched a wound. If you stay calm, it means you've healed that wound. The situation doesn't define you, your reaction does. I remember once being in a heated argument. The other person's words were sharp, filled with emotion, meant to sting. My heart raced, my mind wanted to fire back, but something within whispered, "Don't give it away." So I stayed silent. For a few seconds, it was uncomfortable. My ego screamed, "Say something." But then, as the noise passed, I saw clearly. My silence had diffused the fire. The other person's anger slowly burned out, because there was no fuel left to feed it. That's the hidden magic of silence. It disarms chaos. When you react immediately, you're driven by emotion, not awareness. You give others the power to control how you feel. But when you choose silence, you shift that power back to yourself. You observe instead of absorb. You start seeing things as they are, not as your emotions paint them to be. That's where wisdom begins, not in speaking, but in seeing without reacting. Silence conceals what's sacred within you. It protects your peace like armor. When you don't react, people can't predict you, they can't manipulate you, they can't disturb you. You become mysterious, grounded, powerful. Your calmness begins to confuse the chaos around you. And that's how silence wins, not by dominating others, but by mastering yourself. It's not that silence means you ignore what's happening, it means you choose to respond when your emotions are balanced, not when they're boiling. You take your time to understand, to reflect, to decide what deserves your voice. Because every reaction is an investment, and not every situation is worth your energy. Think about nature. When storms come, mountains don't move. They stay silent, still, unshaken. That's the kind of strength silence gives you. It allows you to stand firm no matter how loud the world becomes. It's not suppression, it's self-control. And self-control is the foundation of inner power. So, the next time someone tries to provoke you, smile within yourself and remember their words are a test, not a truth. You don't need to attend every argument you're invited to. Let silence be your response. Let peace be your posture. Because the one who can remain calm when others are losing control, that person has already won the battle without saying a single word. Silence can heal relationships in ways that words never could. We often think that communication is the key to connection, and it is, But what we don't realize is that sometimes silence is communication. Not the cold silence of distance or ego, but the warm silence of patience, understanding, and love. The kind of silence that says, I may not agree with you right now, but I still care. In most relationships, the biggest wounds are not caused by differences, but by reactions. It's not what we say that breaks the bond, it's how we say it. Words spoken in anger, even if they're true, can leave scars that last for years. And sometimes, in our desire to fix things instantly, we end up saying too much. We over-explain, we overreact, we overtalk. And the more we try to fix it with words, the more tangled it becomes. Silence, on the other hand, creates space. It gives both hearts room to breathe, to cool down, to understand what truly matters beyond the heat of the moment. There was a couple I once knew who used to argue almost every week. Both were kind-hearted, but both wanted to be right. Every disagreement became a battle of words. Who could explain better? Who could justify faster? But one day, something shifted. During an argument, the husband stopped mid-sentence, stayed quiet, and just listened. For the first time, the wife cried instead of shouting. That silence gave her permission to feel. It wasn't about winning anymore, it was about understanding. From that day, their fights reduced. They learned that sometimes the best way to fix a relationship is not to speak, but to stay quietly, lovingly, patiently. When you choose silence in love, you're not avoiding communication, you're deepening it. You're saying, I'm choosing peace over pride, because not every moment demands an answer. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is listen, or even step back and allow the storm to pass. In silence, emotions settle, and when emotions settle, clarity returns. That's when genuine communication can begin, not from the place of defense, but from understanding. We live in a world where people confuse silence with indifference. But in truth, silence in relationships often takes more strength than words. It takes restraint to not respond when you're misunderstood. It takes maturity to stay calm when someone else is angry. It takes wisdom to know that timing matters more than talking. The right words at the wrong time can still hurt. Silence, when chosen with awareness, gives you the gift of timing, the chance to say the right thing when hearts are ready to listen. Have you noticed how silence also teaches forgiveness? When you stop talking, you start listening to your heart. You realize that being right is not as important as being kind. You start to see the other person's pain beneath their words, their fears behind their actions. That realization transforms your anger into empathy. You stop trying to win the argument and start trying to win the person back. That's how silence heals. It transforms reaction into reflection. So next time you find yourself in the middle of a fight, take a step back. Breathe. Say less. Maybe say nothing at all. Let silence do the talking for a while. Let love take a deep breath. Because when words fail, silence speaks softly, truthfully, and powerfully. It reminds both hearts of what truly matters, not who was right, but what is worth protecting. And that's the beauty of silence. It doesn't just end conflicts, it restores connection. Not every opinion deserves a response. This truth, when understood deeply, can save you from endless frustration, exhaustion, and emotional chaos. Because the world is full of noise, opinions, judgments, assumptions, and voices trying to define who you are, what you should do, and how you should live. And if you keep reacting to every single one of them, you'll spend your entire life trying to explain yourself instead of living yourself. We live in a time where everyone has something to say, especially about things that don't concern them. People judge quickly, without context, without understanding, without compassion. Some will misunderstand you simply because they're looking through the lens of their own pain, jealousy, or insecurity. And here's the truth: no matter how pure your intentions are, there will always be someone ready to twist your story. If you try to explain yourself to everyone, you lose yourself in the process. I've learned that peace doesn't come from being understood. It comes from being aligned with your truth, your purpose, and your own conscience. You don't owe everyone an explanation. Some people don't want to understand you. They just want to drain you. They listen not to learn but to argue. They question not to understand but to find fault. And when you engage with that kind of energy, you feed the very thing that steals your peace. There was a time in my life when I used to explain myself too much. I wanted everyone to see my side, to know my heart, to understand my intentions. But no matter how much I explained, some people still chose to believe what they wanted. That's when it hit me. People don't see you as you are, they see you as they are. Their perception of you is shaped by their own experiences, biases, and fears. So why waste energy trying to fix their lens when your job is simply to live your truth? Silence in these moments is not arrogance, it's protection, it's choosing peace over performance. It's knowing that you don't need to prove anything to anyone who's determined not to see. Silence is your boundary, your way of saying, my peace is not up for debate. Because some conversations don't need closure, some accusations don't deserve answers, and some people don't deserve access to your energy. Think of it this way: the sun doesn't argue with shadows to prove that it shines. It simply keeps shining, and the light speaks for itself. You are the same. Let your actions, your growth, your peace, and your consistency be your response. Let your silence confuse those who expected chaos. Let your calmness speak louder than your defense ever could. When you stop explaining, you start living freely. You start realizing that you don't need to win anyone's approval. The people who truly love you won't need explanations, and the ones who demand them constantly will never be satisfied anyway. So, save your words for those who deserve them. Save your energy for things that truly matter. Your dreams, your growth, your purpose. And the next time someone misjudges you, smile silently. Because your silence doesn't mean they're right. It means you're wise enough to know that time will reveal what truth never hides. You don't win by convincing others. You win by staying peaceful in a world that expects you to react. You win by choosing stillness when noise surrounds you. And one day your silence will speak so loudly that even those who doubted you will have nothing left to say. Silence builds respect. It's strange, isn't it? We grow up thinking that to be respected, we have to speak more, do more, prove more. But life, with all its quiet wisdom, eventually teaches us that true respect is not earned through noise. It's earned through composure. It's not the loudest voice that commands attention. It's the calmest presence that earns it. Because silence doesn't beg to be noticed, it simply is. People who talk too much often lose their impact. Their words become background noise, easy to tune out. But those who speak with intention, those who pause, observe, and choose their words carefully, their voice carries weight. When they finally speak, everyone listens. Because silence gives their words value. It's like a pause in music. The silence between the notes makes the melody meaningful. Think about the people you respect the most. The ones whose opinions you wait to hear. They're rarely the ones constantly explaining or interrupting. They're the ones who listen first. They speak only when it adds value, not when it feeds their ego. Their silence makes you curious. It makes you wonder what they're thinking. And when they finally share their thoughts, you hang on to every word because you know it's not just noise, it's insight. There's power in restraint. In today's world, where everyone feels the need to comment, argue, or prove their intelligence online and offline, being silent is almost revolutionary. It shows discipline. It shows strength. It shows that you don't need attention to feel important, and that alone earns you respect. People respect those who have mastered themselves. And silence is the highest form of self-mastery. I once met a man who was the most peaceful person I'd ever seen. He spoke little, but his presence filled the room. People waited for his input because they knew it would be meaningful. Later, when I asked him why he spoke so little, he smiled and said, "Because I want my words to mean something. And for that, I must respect silence first." That line stayed with me. Are to be respected, respect silence first. When you stay silent, you give yourself time to think, to process, to understand. You stop reacting and start responding. Your words become more precise, your thoughts more profound, and your presence more powerful. Silence creates mystery, and mystery draws respect. People begin to notice, not because you demand attention, but because your calmness commands it naturally. And silence also protects your dignity. When you refuse to argue with those who misunderstand you, you show emotional maturity. You communicate without words that you value peace over validation. And that kind of self-respect inspires others to treat you differently. People start realizing that you're not easily shaken, not easily provoked. They know you operate from depth, not impulse. Respect doesn't come from volume, it comes from values. When you choose silence over argument, patience over reaction, and understanding over pride, you earn something far greater than victory. You earn admiration. People start trusting you more. They come to you not for gossip, but for guidance. Because your silence tells them that your words, when you finally speak, are worth listening to. So, let others talk, debate, and compete for attention. You don't have to join the noise to be seen. Just stay calm, observe quietly, and when you speak, speak truthfully, thoughtfully, purposefully. That's how silence transforms into influence. That's how silence earns respect. Because in the end, it's not the one who shouts the loudest who is remembered. It's the one whose presence speaks, even when their mouth doesn't. Listening gives you an edge. It's one of those rare qualities that seems so simple, yet so few truly practice it. In a world where everyone wants to be heard, to be noticed, to prove something, the one who listens quietly becomes the most powerful person in the room. Because while others are busy speaking, you are observing. While they reveal their thoughts, their weaknesses, and their motives, you are learning. Listening is not passive, it's strategic. It's not silence born out of shyness, it's silence born out of awareness. When you listen, you gain information others overlook. You start to notice patterns, how people speak, what they emphasize, what they avoid. You start understanding what drives them, what hurts them, and what inspires them. That knowledge gives you power, not to manipulate, but to connect deeply and act wisely. Great leaders, thinkers, and teachers all share one thing in common: they are extraordinary listeners. Because leadership isn't about having all the answers, it's about understanding the people you lead. I once sat with a mentor who barely spoke during our conversation. I kept talking, sharing, explaining, and he simply nodded, listening with full attention. When I finished, he said only a few sentences. But those sentences changed my entire perspective. I realized later that his silence wasn't emptiness, it was observation. He had absorbed everything, understood what I was truly saying behind my words, and responded with precision. That's the power of listening. It gives you insight that words alone can never provide. Most people listen to reply, not to understand. They're forming their answers while you're still speaking. But when you truly listen, when you give your full attention without judgment or interruption, you not only learn more, but you make others feel valued. And that's a rare gift, because everyone wants to be heard, but not everyone finds someone who truly listens. The one who offers that space earns respect, trust, and influence without asking for it. Listening is also a mirror for self-control. It teaches patience. It trains your mind to slow down, to be present, to resist the urge to dominate every conversation. It's a practice in humility, a way of saying, your perspective matters too. And when people feel that from you, they open up more. They share truths they wouldn't have shared otherwise. That's how connection deepens, not through endless talking, but through genuine listening. And it's not just about listening to people. It's about listening to life itself, to your intuition, to the quiet signals the universe sends you every day. When you stop talking all the time, you start hearing the soft voice within, the one that guides you, warns you, inspires you. Most people miss that voice because their mind is too noisy. They're always explaining, complaining, and reacting. But the ones who pause, who listen, they catch life's whispers before they turn into lessons. There's wisdom in observation. The listener sees what the talker misses. When you walk into a room, you can either fill it with words or you can fill yourself with awareness. One will make you heard for a moment, the other will make you wise for a lifetime. Because the person who listens understands the dynamics others can't see, who's genuine, who's pretending, what's truth, what's noise. That awareness gives you emotional intelligence, the kind that can't be taught in books. So, the next time you're in a conversation, try this: talk less, observe more. Don't rush to respond. Let silence do some of the work. You'll start noticing that people reveal everything if you give them space. You'll learn when to speak and when to stay quiet. You'll know what to say that truly matters. And that's where real influence comes from, not from dominating the room, but from understanding it. Listening gives you clarity. It gives you depth. It gives you a quiet advantage that words can't compete with. Because when others are busy talking to be seen, you're busy understanding. And in the end, understanding always wins.